Wikipedia, what you're seeing, the very surface level, is really the problem, because what you're not seeing underneath the interface are the edit wars, the ideological battles, the propagandists.
Seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth might not be the right place to start.
So pernicious, because the editors who are doing this kind of thing, they understand that it is a backdoor vulnerability into the information ecosystem. They know how to hack it.
Hello, I'm Fraser Myers, Deputy Editor of Spiked. I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Ashley Rindsberg, the founding editor of NPOV. Ashley, welcome.
Thank you, Fraser. Good to be here.
Ashley, you've been doing a lot of investigations into Wikipedia, so I really wanted to talk to you about this. Elon Musk has launched Grokipedia. It's probably a bit too early to say whether that's a success or not, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the reasons why Wikipedia is seen to have gone so badly wrong. So a lot of people will think Wikipedia is a neutral source. I go on an article, it has citations, it's pointing to other reputable places. What could possibly go wrong with Wikipedia? But you've noticed that something has gone very badly awry.
Yeah, Wikipedia, it's in a way, what you're seeing, the very surface level, is really the problem, because what you're not seeing underneath the interface are the edit wars, the ideological battles, the propagandists, the state-aligned messaging, edit cabals or little edit clusters that are working on behalf or seem to be working on behalf of foreign terror organizations. A lot of really ugly stuff that doesn't rise to the surface that the average user is going to see. So you really have to dig. You really have to understand how the system works. You really understand how these people operate to actually know what's going on. That's the problem.
And let's take a specific example. In US politics, there does seem to be a clear democratic bias. You've talked about the edit wars around this question during the last presidential election of whether Kamala Harris was given the title of border czar by Joe Biden, whether it's right to pin the blame for the border crisis on her. What role did Wikipedia play in sort of massaging that message?
The general rule with Wikipedia is that they will follow the mainstream, what they consider to be reliable sources on any given topic. And those reliable sources tend to be the mainstream media. That would be BBC, Guardian in the UK, New York Times, CBS, NBC, etc. in the US. In this case, the contention was that from the Democrats was that she was never made border czar. For Wikipedia's purposes, what they argued was that nobody had ever reported that she was actually the border czar. She was just kind of given this informal role by Biden. But the fact is that there was reporting from a reliable source, a Wikipedia-coded reliable source, I think it was Axios, calling her a border czar, reporting that she was indeed appointed the border czar. So you then had to make a decision, if you're a Wikipedia editor, which way do we go? They went the way that the Democratic Party swung on this particular issue, not surprisingly, because that's the way they always fall on any given issue. But this one was particularly instructive because it could have gone either way. There was reporting on both sides of the issue, and editors went with the direction that the Democratic Party itself and the media as well was pushing for.
And you mentioned there, what sources Wikipedia considers reliable. Understandably, BBC, reputable seeming outlets, relatively reputable. We could get a little bit into that, I suppose. New York Times, I know you've written a fantastic book on why that's not reliable. But there are some outlets that clearly would strike most people as quite obvious propaganda outlets. So am I right in thinking that Al Jazeera is considered a trusted source, despite its background?
Al Jazeera is considered a green-coded, generally reliable source on Wikipedia. It's controlled by the Qatari state and the Qatari royal family, effectively. China Daily, which is a official Chinese propaganda organ for the state, is actually coded yellow, which is sometimes reliable, which is a higher ranking than what you will get for many conservative American news outlets on Wikipedia, which are coded either red for generally unreliable or sort of a gray color that means deprecated, which never use it. This is like, I think the Daily Mail has gotten this. The problem with this list is not just that it's obviously biased towards the left and the center left. The problem is that it was just created one day by some guy named Mr. X, a random account who then subsequently disappeared off of the site. There's no accountability. It was never voted upon by the Wikipedia community. It was never ratified. No one ever inspected the idea. It was just done by one person who also is a partisan editor, or was a partisan editor until he left the site. And now you have this really important piece of knowledge infrastructure, as Wikipedia calls itself, that is tilting structurally to the left on almost every single important topic.
And sticking with sort of Al Jazeera, I mean, obviously that plays into one of the key controversies of our time, which is the Israel-Hamas war. Does that lead to a very skewed telling of that particular story on Wikipedia?
Invariably, it will, when you have a site like Al Jazeera that's considered to be a reliable source, when we know for a fact that a number of quote-unquote Al Jazeera reporters were also members of Hamas or working with or for Hamas during the war. There's almost no parallel to that I've been able to find. I mean, you have isolated cases here or there, but this seems to be a pattern with regard to Al Jazeera. The other issue with regard to the Israel-Palestine conflict is that my reporting from last year showed that you have a edit gang. I call them the Gang of 40. This is about 40, let's say, pro-Palestine, anti-Israel. Some of them are pro-Hamas. Some of them are openly pro-Hezbollah. They display a little, what they call a user box, saying this user is pro-Hezbollah. And they have edited around 1 million edits to around 10,000 articles in the Palestine-Israel topic space, completely reshaping that landscape on everything from whitewashing the crimes of the Iranian regime in Tehran, to removing terror attacks by Hamas and Hezbollah, to removing mentions of Hamas's 1988 genocidal charter, to severing connections, just deleting connections between the Jewish people and the land of Israel. And this one has gone on. It's still going on. It hasn't actually stopped, but it's been going on for years.
And a lot of people might think, well, okay, I won't use Wikipedia. I'll use Elon Musk's new Grokpedia. I'll look to other sources to get my news. And obviously, you know, that might be all well and good in the moment. But what goes on Wikipedia has a broader impact, doesn't it? This is not just about what appears on one particular website.
Wikipedia is one of the major sources of training data for virtually every LLM model, for every AI out there. It's also, it dominates Google. If you go and type something into Google as a topic, like I did once to see free speech, I typed in free speech into Google, and what you see is not just that Wikipedia, the result is the first result on Google, which already is something that people pay millions of dollars to attain that ranking on Google, but it's in their knowledge panel on Google's side where it gives you a little breakdown of an issue. It's in their AI overview. It pulls from Wikipedia. It's in other overviews on the Google page. So when you have a Google page on a topic like free speech, or you could take any other topic, grooming gangs or whatever you might decide, and if you look carefully, you will see that Wikipedia has sourced a disproportionate amount of that information on that result.
So basically, this is, you know, what's on Wikipedia now, decided in these sort of by these biased editors, becomes a kind of form of truth, really, that's accepted by AI, accepted by Google, regurgitated back to us, and in a way that goes well beyond, you know, just simply us browsing Wikipedia.
Yeah, and that's why it's so pernicious, because what happens, and the editors who are doing this kind of thing, they know this. They understand that it is a backdoor vulnerability into the information ecosystem. They know how to hack it. So you can take something like take a Marxist journal and a Marxist scholar wrote some article about Trump, calling him a fascist. That's then used as the citation to call Trump a fascist or an authoritarian on Wikipedia. We don't see any of that behind the scenes machinations. We don't see the sourcing that it came from a Marxist. It takes me, a journalist who does this for a living, hours to figure this out. But nevertheless, that's what gets fed into ChatGPT, into Claude, into Perplexity, onto Google, even into Alexa and Siri. And when you go and ask these questions, you can sometimes see a one-to-one correlation where you can ask a question, it'll pull it directly from Wikipedia, give you the answer that some random editor and some anonymous person who's relying explicitly on a Marxist source or whatever the topic might be is a source that appears to be reliable but is highly ideological, is now laundered into the mainstream.
And could you say, was there ever a time when Wikipedia was relatively neutral, accurate, and as objective as it could be? Of course, no one can be entirely accurate and objective all the time. You mentioned Trump. I'm thinking that's probably when things changed quite dramatically.
Things definitely took a major turn right around the time of the 2016 election, when Hillary Clinton lost, declared a fake news epidemic, and Wikipedia sees this real opportunity to step in to be sort of, again, what I said, the knowledge infrastructure, knowledge pipeline that would secure information. How did they do that? Is because they rely on the mainstream media to determine what is considered a reliable claim, then you pipe that into social media, and that becomes sort of the ground truth. You compare what someone says on Facebook in a post, or on Twitter at the time, or on X today in a post, with the so-called ground truth on Wikipedia, because it comes from the mainstream media, and then you can determine, is this misinformation or is this accurate? And none of this was accidental. This was all something that was put into place by Wikimedia Foundation, which owns Wikipedia. There was a lot of influence by Hillary Clinton in that specific process of turning Wikipedia into this knowledge infrastructure for the internet at that moment. So it really did take a turn. But back to your earlier question about, was it ever reliable? I think the actual question is, what parts of it have ever been reliable and what parts of it were never reliable? So if you go and look at something about mollusks or croissants or exotic languages or whatever, it's actually quite good. And there's a lot of information, and people actually have, I think, a good faith effort into enriching the site in that way. But anything that is remotely political, cultural, or social is going to be at least subject to these kinds of forces, these kinds of ideological pressure points, or propaganda, or special business interests, or what have you.
Let's hope that croissants and mollusks don't get dragged into the culture war then.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. I did want to bring up Catherine Mayer. People may be familiar with her. She was the head of the Wikimedia Foundation. And there was infamously, there was a TED Talk that did the rounds when she joined NPR. I think it was an older, but it was resurfaced around that time. And she talked quite explicitly about the truth getting in the way of finding common ground, getting in the way of the common good.
Perhaps for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth might not be the right place to start. In fact, our reverence for the truth might be a distraction that's getting in the way of finding common ground and getting things done.
Do you think that kind of attitude was widely reflected in Wikimedia and Wikipedia at the time? Do you think that is still there?
Absolutely, it was. It still is. It's an idea that information is the product of power dynamics. Is a very Marxist concept, where what we're not doing is, as Catherine Mayer actually explicitly said, is trying to get to the bottom of the truth of an issue. We are not seeking objective truth, because what that means is that one side is actually going to have to win out on the argument in some objective fashion. Wikipedia is not built for that. Wikipedia is built for some kind of consensus to emerge from this online squabbling that goes on behind the scenes on the talk pages, to say, okay, we can compromise. It's not going to be this. It's not going to be this. We can't war about this forever. We're going to actually have to fix the sentence. So some admin is going to come and say, okay, I'm just going to choose you guys because we're going to do a head count. We're going to see who's voting on this particular topic of this claim. And that's what's going to determine who gets to make the claim. But that's not how the truth works. It's not done by voting in a democratic manner. When you do physics and you do chemistry or whatever, it's not that you say, hands up, who believes that this is the claim, E equals MC squared. Do you think it's true or not true? And if 6 out of 10 people think it's not true, so on Wikipedia, it's actually not true. But that's how it works today with regard to the editors. Some admin comes in, does the head count, and says, this is now the truth. That's kind of a postmodern view of how truth actually works. It works by power, by construction, by this kind of consensus. And Maher was kind of like, almost in an innocent, naive way, reflecting this. I don't think she's innocent or naive in what she meant to do while she was at Wikipedia and the transformation that she led there. But I think that is what she was trying to express about how Wikipedia works.
Is it fixable, do you think? Because presumably we do need to fix it. We can't simply have, say, Grokpedia as an alternative, given the massive reach of Wikipedia.
I actually think that Grokpedia, competitors like Justipedia are sort of doing the work of fixing it, because they're putting pressure on Wikipedia to get its act together and to address these issues. Up until now, it just has not addressed these issues. After my report that I referenced came out about the Gang of 40 pro-Hamas editors was published, the Oversight Committee in Congress launched an investigation into foreign influence on Wikipedia. That kind of pressure really matters because it's scrutiny. People for too long just kind of didn't pay attention to what was going on in Wikipedia. There was always some reporting about the shenanigans and the weird stuff, but it wasn't really at this level of how is this affecting our society? And finally it is. And what you have is people now looking very closely at what's happening and who's controlling it and who's involved. And you also have direct competition from Grokpedia, Justipedia, as I said, which really does matter because now an LLM can say, you know what, maybe we won't get Wikipedia out of the training data totally, but we'll also include Grokpedia or Justipedia or any other number of encyclopedias online that can sort of dilute whatever bias that there might be. And that's actually a better way to handle this in terms of how we get information at the user end of things.
Ashley Rindsberg, thank you very much.
Thank you, Fraser.